Cllr Gary Sambrook, and I'm currently stood in Whitton Lakes, which will be part of Scotland Green Ward according to the Boundary Commission proposals. However, if I just step over here, I'm now in the car park of Whitton Lakes, which would be in the Perry Common Ward. So, we're going to go on a little drive now from the southern bit of the proposed Perry Common Ward to the northern bit to demonstrate how silly it can be as part of a community from travelling from the south to north, where we're going to have to drive through 4 separate wards. So, we're just leaving the Whitton Lakes car park at the moment, which will be in a separate ward to Whitton Lakes, and this is considered the main entrance to Whitton Lakes.
Now, Gary, we've just left Wiley Birch. That was an estate that was built to make use of that park, wasn't it?
Yes, Wiley Birch was built up around Whitton Lakes as part of a redevelopment in the 60s. And Whitton Lakes was a local facilities for people to use originally as a boating lakes. So as we travel up Gypsy Lane, at the end of the road, we'll turn right up the Ridgeway. And as you can see ahead, there is Whitton Cemetery, which will be in the proposed Oscott Ward.
So Gary, as you've highlighted, we've had to leave the Wiley Birch estate that really seems it ought to be part of Scotland Green, and have already had to enter another ward, even though we're trying to travel from the southern tip of Perry Common to the northern bit.
Yeah, so Wiley Birch has always been considered a community part of Scotland Green area, but as part of the proposals by the Boundary Commission, we're going to have to travel through separate communities which aren't linked to Wiley Birch to travel to the northern bit of the ward that they'll be associated with. So as you see here on the Ridgeway, the left hand side is Oscott Ward, and the right hand side will be Perry Common Ward. As we approach the roundabout at the top of the road, this roundabout will be separated into 3 different wards. Firstly, on the left hand side will be the continuation of Oscott Ward. The top right hand side will be in King's Standing Ward, and then on the right hand side, the lower right hand side, will be Perry Common Ward. And this is the only way you can travel from the southern bit to the northern bit of Perry Common Ward. So as we go round the island, we're in Oscott.
Now, College Road, this is the main road up the side of King's Standing, isn't it? So we're now in King's Standing Ward.
Yep, so we're now in King's Standing Ward.
Gary, can you tell us a bit about the King's Standing community?
So the King's Standing community was built in the 1920s, 30s, and was the largest municipal estate built in Europe at the time. It has a very clear identity as the King's Standing area, which stretches from the College Road up to the top of King's Standing Road on the boundary with Sutton Coldfield. So as we're going down the College Road, there's still a clear distinction between the left hand side, which is King's Standing, and the right hand side, which is Perry Common.
Tell us a bit about Hawthorne Road High Street, Gary.
So just past there, we've just gone past Hawthorne Road, which is one of the main shopping areas in the King's Standing area. Unfortunately, under the boundary proposals, a quarter of Hawthorne Road will be in Oscott Ward, while 3/4 of Hawthorne Road will be in King's Standing Ward, which will be separating shops between wards and also residential housing as well.
And so the bit that's taken out of King's Standing and it's going to be in Oscott, that includes the Tesco King's Standing, doesn't it?
Yeah, so Tesco King's Standing will no longer be in King's Standing, it'll be in Oscott. It's also the same for the Elim Church, King Standing, one of our local churches, which has a very high attendance rate for a lot of their services, and is really involved in community work and youth work in the area, being put in Oscott Ward as well.
Obviously, with boundary changes, Gary, a significant part is making sure there's equality of electors. What I'm sure residents would be able to understand having this chunk of Stockland Green round the park put into Perry Common, if it wasn't for the fact Perry Common itself is being split in parts. Can you tell us a bit about how Perry Common is being split up?
So Perry Common is being split up, which has the main shopping area around the ring, which runs along Whitton Lodge Road, and serves the communities of Perry Common and the offshoots such as Marshman Way area in the Hurst Way and Port Farm Road, etc. So in the proposals by the Boundary Commission, Perry Common will be the centre and have the main shopping centre for areas which can't be accessed by it, like Wiley Birch.
This little bit of College Road we've just been on and now turning onto the Chester Road, can you tell us what ward we're now in?
So we're now in Sutton Vesey, Sutton Parkside Ward, which would be the third ward that we've had to travel through to go from the south to the north end of Perry Common.
And going round this corner, does this take us into Sutton Boldmere Ward?
Yep, so now we're in Sutton Boldmere Ward, which is the fourth ward that we've had to drive through to get to the northern tip of Perry Common Ward. So as we approach the lights down here, we're going to be turning into our fifth ward, which will be Shore Teeth. So at no point during the journey from south to north have we actually been in Perry Common Ward when we turned off onto the Ridgeway.
It seems crazy that residents could have a ward where you have to drive through 4 or 5 other wards to be able to get from one end of it to the other. Is this fair on residents?
I don't think it's fair, because community identity is obviously very important to local people, and the craziness of having to travel through 5 different wards just to get to the northern tip of what is deemed a community doesn't seem sensible, and it doesn't seem logical. So now on our left hand side we have Shore Teeth Ward.
Now the strange thing here is the whole of Court Lane has been put in Short Heath Ward, but this cul-de-sac on the right is only in Perry Common Ward, is that right?
Yep, so both sides of this road are in Shore Teeth Ward, but as we turn right into Hawthorne Brook, which is the most northern tip of Perry Common Ward, it changes into a different ward.
And this grove here is a cul-de-sac, is it?
Yep, it's a cul-de-sac, it doesn't go anywhere, and there's about 40 properties in it. So we've done this video just to demonstrate to you how you have to travel through 5 different wards to go from the southern tip of Perry Common to the northern bit of the proposed Perry Common, which we don't feel is one sensible or logical or represents a fair deal for local residents when it comes to community identity.